Hello, hello, and welcome to Death Café with me, your Latinx bruja, Pastel Supernova. This is where I'm doing my part to help normalize heart led conversations about death, dying, and loss. I'll be sharing personal journeys and conversing with insightful minds on everything to do with the inevitable. Knowledge is power, so let's find out what we can do to support our courage, curiosity, and stamina to face the only guarantee we've got in this lifetime. This is episode 2, and in this conversation, I have the pleasure of speaking with two very, very cool ladies in my Death Doula program. They're part of the very first cohort of a class of this kind with me, and we talk about our individual reasons for wanting to be end of life doulas and what that purpose means to us. We talk about mirror magic. We go back in time and give ourselves the opportunity to share some very important last words. As Death Cafes would have it, we talk about some of our loved ones and we hear stories from listeners who are tuning in when we're recording this live. I'm excited to share this, so let's get into it. Hi, Cindy. I see you. Hey, Robbie, what's up?
Not much. How are you doing?
This little bruja feels like an ancient warlock right now.
Aw. Yeah, I'm just on a
So
break here at work, and as soon as I got into my car, I noticed that you went live. So I thought, oh, I should hop on and listen to what this wonderful person has to say today about death and dying.
I have so much to say about everything at all times. Do you want to
Yeah,
introduce yourself to the world?
absolutely. Hi, I'm Robbie. I am a life coach, counselor, and soon to be death doula, along with Pastel here.
My name is Cindy, sharing a class with Pastel for end of life care death doula course. I'm sharing with you because I find we have these collective voices to maybe make some more meaning and give more purpose to life. That's why I'm here.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
You old warlock, you.
I was looking forward to that time in my life. I just didn't realize it was now.
Welcome to your
I'm
life.
here now. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, this is it. But I'm into it. Actually, it brings me to one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, which is grieving a previous life. This is it felt like a complete pivot to what I was doing earlier, like when I first started the program of becoming a death doula. And leading up to that, I had put it off because I've always identified as being an artist and a bruja. Bruja is like my life practice, though. So that is just my practice, right? So that for some reason I've never been afraid of letting that go because it's impossible. But the idea of leaving dance and theater for an unexpected amount of time made it very scary for me to jump into this. And like going into this, I kind of did it low key, quiet, didn't really tell people about it. And just now I've started to just jump up on every roof to do it, but I was afraid of losing something. I had to stop doing creative work in the way that I was normally used to, which was
Mhm.
performance and expression. And then it turned into having to step away to get into, I started sewing more, but it was all like, introverted, quiet stuff. It wasn't loud. So I was like grieving like a mofo. But spirit kept telling me you have to go this way. So I've been doing it, but just until like right after our second exam recently, all of a sudden the moment I was like, yes, I'm in, I'm diving in. This is amazing and very cool. I got this rush of creativity and all of this freedom suddenly came over me where I was like, oh, this is what I do art about now. And I had been grieving this dancer part of me for
for all these months, but I thought she was gone. And it's just like the storyteller is being born. It's my warlock. His voice is starting to come out, and I'm really excited to meet him.
That's amazing. And I do, that resonates with me, the leaving, or the concept or the thought that you're leaving part of your identity behind. And I would venture to say that you're not leaving it behind. It's become a foundation of your next level
Yes,
or dimension, however you want to put it.
for sure. For sure. But it was the fear, and it was, I was constantly laughing and like,
Mhm.
trust the process.
It is terrifying to do that kind of thing. Been through it myself, and it's not an easy. So I congratulate you on continuing to step forward into the next phase.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to you both. How
Yeah.
how
It's,
did you get here?
I don't know. I didn't start, I'm still new at Rhodes, and the whole idea of this education was part of my grief journey. I think it's my grief is what led me to the course.
Right.
So I don't
Hmm.
see, I don't see the future of what it'll be quite yet clearly, but I do know I want to live my life in service and with purpose. And having purpose has always been on the back burner for me, like just to feel like I'm feeling things, expressing things in my world, because otherwise I find with this grief journey right now I could get too quiet. I feel like something's always pulling me to step out of the quiet, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Hmm.
I love being with people, so that's a big part of who I am. And then just the idea of being able to do even piecework, like just volunteer work, or like at this point in my life, I don't see that I'm going to be starting a career or hanging a shingle out, but at the same time, I'd like it known that I'm available to help people, helping them go through whatever the journey is for them, whether it starts with a diagnosis or right through to making final arrangements, and even following through with family and loved ones after the death. I'm all in for that.
You're
Yeah.
needed.
I like the idea of feeling needed. I know I've felt like I've needed people, and I know what it means to have that need fulfilled. And I've had been blessed with these beautiful people that have been in my life. And part of it too is just even paying it forward, because I want to see people fulfilled in ways that aren't fulfilled by money or by fame or by status, or it's just about feeling like the human journey is real, and we need to feel seen and heard and respected and loved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, witness is one of the things, one of the words that comes to my mind. And I fought with abandonment most of my life. And then coming to the place where I had to face my grief and push through or make room for. I think I really craved someone to witness me, and then I realized that I hadn't even been witnessing myself.
Right.
And that's sort of what brought me here on my healing
Yeah.
journey. So, yeah.
Mhm. That is so true. And I felt very inspired by you and what you were saying your purpose for this was. And I was excited for you. And then I thought, well, why not? If we share, we put things out there into the airwaves that make people want to invest in themselves and find meaning, especially when they're in flux, like not knowing all these things that are coming into their lives or how to go forward, understanding, or even being able to engage, because I think we can be so easily distracted and disengage.
Yeah. And discomfort, like witnessing somebody in discomfort, uh, demands you take a pause because you have to make space, and that takes time for someone, even if it's a little dose. And everybody is so in a hurry that I think a lot of times, like aside of discomfort, I think people just don't think that they have time to take a beat for someone else if they don't have to. So if they pretend they don't notice, they can just keep going on their crazy race.
Oh gosh, that's so true. It's like everybody gets on the elevator and 3 or 4 people will be on there and 3 of them will look down at their phones and pretend they're doing something on their phone rather than look at each other or acknowledge the day. I've been that person too, where I'm just like, please don't say anything to me right now because I don't know if I can be civil, or I don't know if I can answer the way you want me to answer. Or I think we do that because if we open our mouths, we don't even ourselves want to hear what comes out.
Yeah, yeah. And that's human, it's natural. Like, this takes training. It takes, like, we don't really have it embedded into our North American culture. Other cultures do, and some families do, but it is pretty tight, especially in Canada. So to be able to hold space for someone requires
Mhm.
people like us to go to school and learn how to do it and make the time for those people. Because what if somebody else is having a day? It takes focus.
Well, and also it's that intuition that we were just talking about in class, because I can't be out and around people and not feel it and see it. Like, body language is a huge tell. And if
Yeah,
I'm around people long enough, certain groups in certain atmospheres, I grab on and I mean, it's not like I'm reading their minds. It's the body language that gives them away mostly, but especially if they look like they want to engage, and I can tell the moment there is some kind of contact, I know that I'm about to hear something. That's
yeah.
been my life. And then for me, my heart's open. I try to be open, mostly, because I know for me, when I'm about ready to explode with something, it needs to come out. I'm desperate for somebody to engage me so I can. I know that for myself. I always
Hmm.
want to share with people, and I then know part of who I am is I know they need to be. And like Robbie was saying, that we need witness, but it also requires some training. And I'm finding in our class through this course that some of the training has been invaluable for me, because I do need to learn to be a better listener.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. I respect and love people when they genuinely want to put themselves out there, because it takes a humbling process to
Hmm.
bear yourself, to let yourself be seen in self. And if somebody's willing to do that, I really want to be the person that's going to respect that they've done that and be able to listen and be present while they're doing that.
Yes, that's the magic that has always pulled me back to teaching. So I've been a dancer forever, and I've taught for almost just as long, because in my first studio they got me teaching the babies when I was just like 11 years old. So I've been teaching, and the older I got, the more I started meeting women who their confidence was low and they just wanted to be able to take up space again, and they were ashamed out of it, or it all got forgotten. Work that I would do, it's actually like a magical ritual where you use a mirror, and it's used for all kinds of things. It's used especially with people with eating disorders. You look in the mirror and you just say something nice to yourself and you walk away. And
Yeah.
you do it enough, and you do it when you're in a bad mood, even like you do it, believe it. So I started to work with these women this way,
Uh-huh.
and it turned into grief work. It was just grief work. They literally had to witness themselves and accept the fact that they've been insulting themselves for a very long time.
Wow.
And that was powerful, because then they started to walk around like they wanted to. And it was, oof, Cindy, it changes the room.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds so, wow, that sounds like an absolutely amazing thing to witness. That loss of negative and horrible energy.
Well, it's the stuff that keeps reminding me is magic. Because, like, when people are like, "Oh, magic," and they say it doesn't exist because it doesn't look like those little twinkly lights that come out of a fairy's wand in a cartoon. This particular type of healing witnessed is like that.
Oh,
It
wow.
it's like, whew, like I haven't breathed before, like it's very rewarding.
The visual I'm getting just when you say mirrors, because mirrors aren't just things that reflect you. I mean, they do reflect, it's the reflection itself, what the importance of reflection is. A mirror is a magical thing in the sense that it allows reflection, not just by the aesthetics of what you look like, what you are on the outside, which is very inconsequential. It's all the damage and all the hurts and the things we've swallowed and all the things we've lied to ourselves with. And then bringing that out and like exposing it, it can be a metamorphosis because that thing about smiling, I do it when I wake up in the morning.
Mm.
I'm teaching myself when I come awake to smile, even in the bed
Ooh,
still. And I start smiling because I've let the days start since last February with negative. I didn't mean to, but I'd come awake and I'd be hurt inside and I'd be lonely inside and um pit of my stomach would be it's like just telling myself just go back to sleep. Don't bother. I've felt
right.
that very strongly. But then I get to the mirror, which is what you were saying, and I go in the bathroom and I get in front of the mirror to brush my teeth and I'm like, "Oh, smile again." And it worked. It did something. That thing
Mhm.
in the pit of my stomach seemed to be less and less. And so that's what you're saying is when somebody who's told themselves they're a loser because they just don't do what society says you should do, the norms, the eat this, drink this, exercise this way, and if you don't do it all this way and you don't look this way, you're less than. And
Mhm.
I'm one of those people that I've bought the lies. I've struggled with my weight, so I know that sense of self struggles so much.
Yeah.
So you're witnessing these women come to the magic or come to the mirror and also because they've allowed that to come forward and to admit it. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. It's a huge, huge step.
Wow.
People take it for granted.
Well,
I think so.
the ripple effect is important. I mean, like, you throw the pebble in the water, you see the little ripples start, and just keep it going and keep it going. And I mean, I believe putting good out creates a huge effect.
That's why it's so important to do personal healing before going out, or not even before. It's just the more you do personal healing, the more you can help others, period. By not even by like intentional work, one on one or in groups, but just by being in the room. We notice when someone is healed, they're shiny and bright. We see the light. It's a real
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And that can calm someone, like someone might, like how you were saying, they gravitate to you and they end up sharing because there's something that's pulling them forward and saying, this is a safe space for you.
Exactly. Exactly. And it is like the little sparkles coming off the end of the wand in a sense.
Yeah, it
Like
really is.
I always think of, Tinkerbell at the beginning of the Disney show.
Yeah.
But I've had a couple experiences in my life and there's just one that just really sticks out where I was around this man who'd come to work at our house to do something. I don't know, he was giving us a quote for something. And he was there in his business capacity in his job, but at the same time there was a presence about him. And when we got off topic, it was, I don't know what the subject was, but it was off topic, and he started to just talk about something that he believed in for himself and his family. And I can't even remember the conversation, but there was something about an aura about him that
Mm.
really commanded attention, and he was very giving in the way he talked about our relating it to our situation with what we were going through. And then when he left, I remember my ex-husband coming up to me and going, is it just me? Was there something about him? And which was really weird for
Ooh.
him to make an observation. But the fact that he did, I'm like, you noticed something? He goes, I don't know what I noticed, he said, but he was a very different person, not like who I thought he was. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, the way he talked to us was so open, it's like he knew us.
Yes.
And it was ominous almost, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like it was like a visit. It was like some kind of supernatural thing almost because it wasn't about what we had just discussed about whatever was happening with the house or what he was there for. It was about the way he left a message behind.
This is something that also confirms magic, frequency, this interconnectedness that we have, because in a relaxed state, more of us than we think are channeling information. And whether he has a practice or it was something that he picked up on in the moment, we do channel and we speak. Something is speaking through us specifically to deliver the message at the right time. Some people know how to harness that and access that, and they do. Mediums being one of them, or people who use divination, or spiritual leaders of all kinds of cultures. They get these messages, but then there are so many more of us that go in and out of this state without even noticing. But the person that the message is being delivered to always notices.
Oh, yes, that's true. That makes a lot of sense because that doesn't require as much to be the receiver is not as there's not as much well, there's still the requirement that you believe in what you're receiving, but I think the person that's giving the unharnessed wisdom doesn't know they're the vessel yet. They don't know they sense
Hmm.
something, but they don't know it. And I think for me, I have an openness to it because of how I was raised, by whom I was raised, and the fact that faith came into my life later in my life. But I do know that if there's a message, it's going to be delivered one way or another. I do know that.
Yes.
It's gonna come from a bush, it's gonna come from the end of a wand, it's gonna come from your bottom of your teacup. I don't care because I believe
Yeah.
we are entities that are supposed to be able to move through with some direction here and there. And I don't think we're meant to come here purpose with no purpose.
Hmm.
We're supposed to be here. We're fulfilling something. I think that's been my new thing is that I feel my life is freed to be more purpose driven. So that's the other part of like why I'm here with you too, is because I'm trying to do the opposite of what the negative is trying to do to me right now in my grieving process. I feel like this shadow's trying to come over me and take it away from me, but I want to be open. I want to force an openness to be a vessel, to be able to move through the healing and help others at the same time because we I can relate more to people now.
I can feel your Care Bear stare. It's working.
What?
Mhm. Remember the Care Bears?
Uh,
Care Bears was a show way
oh,
back in the
okay.
1900s.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
something funny. Yeah. That's kind of cool. The Care Bear
they
stare.
they were these like magical little bears that lived in the clouds, and they each had a specific
Mm.
power. One was more
Um,
mindful, one was courageous. Lionheart, he was cool. When they had enemies, all they would do was shine their bellies at the enemy, and together their collective light would blast the evil away.
oh, yes, that's starting to like I can see a visual too. And but when you said the words to me, literally I'm thinking because whenever I look at a bear, a stuffed bear, I feel
Yeah.
comfort and I feel
Oh,
safe because I had bears in the hospital when I was young, when I needed hospital, like I always got a bear when I was in the hospital. But bears have always
oh,
represented comfort and safety and love, unconditional love, because they're just cozy and they're furry and they're soft and they cuddle in really well. I think my kids watched that show. I am older than you by quite a bit, but I'm trying to. I do remember things earlier than that, though. My long-term memory goes way back to shows you probably haven't even heard of in your lifetime yet. but I do remember Care Bears and the message of beaming your light at somebody, a healing light or a support light or love. That would be an amazing thing we could do.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you're already doing it. I felt it.
Aw, well, good, because I would definitely want to share that with you. I do feel it on when we're sharing on Zoom, like on our class. The love that
Yeah.
I feel coming from you and your purpose, just the way you even talk about your mom, it just warms my heart every time you talk about your mom. It really affects me because,
Oh,
yeah, I feel that your mom imparted so much for you in so many ways. I mean, the way you described your relationship with your mom and how she passed things on to you, it's like she's still there. I can almost sense her still there around you.
she really is. Like in every way. And she was a storyteller. So she really embedded stories into you. Like she'd give you so much to work with that they kind of lived on forever.
Yeah,
She was cool.
that is a very, very, very cool feature with a parent because that feeds your imagination and it helps you grow with that because growing with the ability to imagine gives you exponential exposure to all kinds of intel because my dad was a storyteller too. My mom was a people person. She would come into somebody's day, into somebody's moments, and she would just let them be. And she would just embrace all of who they were for what they were. She was a strong, strong person that came from hard, horrible times, but it made her resilient to a degree, but meanwhile, at the same time, literally failing with bipolar manic and horrific breakdowns, two of them that could have ended her life, and making it so she had to go on these life altering drugs. And it took her away. The drugs took her away.
Right.
But before it could, Mom really took a big bite out of life. She made sure she got to experience people the way she wanted to, and she made sure to help people when she could because she passionately wanted them to feel seen and cared for. That was who she was because
Ugh.
she knew what great needs were. She knew what loss was. She knew what being empty and abandoned was. Her life
Mm.
had been that hard. So I think in turn, she wanted to make sure nobody else went through that was in her airway, in her space, because it didn't matter where we were. My mom had this ability to just draw people out in
What was your
bathrooms,
mother's
in
name?
lineups. Lorraine, Maida Lorraine.
Lorraine. All right,
Yes,
Lorraine. My
yes.
mother was Anna.
That sounds like it's such a warm name too.
Yeah?
I don't know. There's a old age to it seems like a name that would come forth from way back. Like
Yeah, it's a
what-
vintage name.
it's a vintage name. Yeah, it does sound vintage. Yeah. Were you a big family? Like, are you from a big family?
My mother was from a big family. My
Yeah.
father was from a big family. So she was from Caracas, Venezuela, and my dad was
Right.
from Spain, and they met in Canada. And then
Oh,
it was just her, like them and my brother and I. And
okay.
so our experience was very small family, but I
Right.
have a million cousins.
Wow. So have you been to both countries?
I have. Unfortunately, Venezuela has been under a dictatorship for many years, so I haven't been since I was a teenager, but I do go to Spain with frequency. We have a message here, and then I have a question for you.
Hi, I just wanted to just say what you guys are talking about is so important. The pressures that are put upon people socially, especially women, in my opinion, it's disgusting, and the struggle that you have to meet an expectation or whatever, some kind of made up level of where you should be or what I always therapists always say you should all over yourself, but it's like
Yeah.
There's no should in life. You really, there's what you do and what you want to do and who you want to be. And it's a shame that it gets clouded and jaded for most of people, some all their lives. And they never get to realize their true selves and their true power. It's just great to hear you guys talking about it.
Thank you
Wow.
so much for that message. It was very kind.
Wow. Wow. That's being seen. I mean, I felt
Yeah,
that.
same. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think men do struggle differently because as much as the female experience as I know it, we don't get to share with everyone. But I feel like the male experience, from my perspective, seems that you don't get to have those feelings at all if you're under general culture programming. And that's even harder to access because you just deny it for so long.
I watched this one guy do this podcast and he talks about generational issues where men have been throughout time based on where they are, their age and stage in their life, they're expected to always maintain a strength about them that they can't show their weakness. They can't show they're to be strong for everything.
Yeah.
But when it comes to their own issues in life and however life has affected them or family or work or whatever, if they're being damaged in some way or if they're experiencing such stress, it's almost like they're supposed to go stay outside of themselves. They're supposed to externally react and do things. But when it comes to making peace for themselves, they're to keep that deep, deep inside.
Yes, which is why they should take grief work classes.
Mm.
Ladies and genders, there is room for grief work in your life. Grief doesn't look like boohoo crying all the time. It's tight in there. So even to just peel back one layer of the onion, or even to be
Yeah.
there to witness other people like you grieving is
Yes.
incredibly helpful.
Yeah, it is one layer at a time. That onion thing, that's a good analogy. I mean, so many people go to the gym and they exhaust their hormones and they exhaust their pent up stresses and things physically. But when you can sit amongst people and words can come and feelings can come and even tears can come, even rage where you want to just throw your arms up or you want to punch a bag, but get
Yeah.
that stuff to come up too, because when it puts push down, the sediment gets so dangerous. It becomes toxic and dangerous.
Yes.
The person standing on the edge of the bridge. I mean, there's no time left to move the sediment. It's like they're standing there and they're about ready to go, but I'm done. It's all that hurt and all that pain and all that indecision and negative thoughts just skews your whole being. And men are famous for doing everything externally to show they're upset, but they're not really moving the sediment.
From pop culture's point of view, I see that they're only just now being given permission openly. Not that
True.
some men don't already do it, but it is becoming more popular, which is good because, again, like we were saying, if we heal ourselves, we can heal others. And if men really get into healing their generational trauma, there'll be less violence on women.
Not just that, making it the human effect, because
Yes.
we are all human, that we do have one commonality. You know, I heard
So,
somebody call it flesh bags, and I can't remember where I just heard this recently, but it probably on True Blood, but whatever. But really, that all goes away. That's
yeah.
not what matters. It has no consequence for what we're carrying, which is our souls and our purposes and our beings. It gives so much more to where we are, who we're with. Our atmosphere is so different if we all focused on that.
I have a question for all of you. Do you have specific last words that you didn't get to say to any person or situation in your life?
Well, the first thing my thought was Tony, because he went too fast that night. I didn't get to say something to him. But if I could have had one more thing I could have said to him, I said, I want to be with you right here for this, and I love you so much, and take it with you, please. And that's what I would have
Mm,
said if I could have said, take it with. I don't know why that just hit me that way, just because everything happened so fast. We didn't talk. We talked at each other, and he couldn't talk much, but I wanted him because I knew he was gone. Pastel. He went. He died, and I knew he was dying. I knew he was leaving. I don't know how
right.
I knew, but I just did. And then there was something that it didn't get to happen or be said. And when you asked that question, I would have just wanted him to take that with him where when he was gone, but I didn't get to do that.
Let's ring a bell. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That felt good. I still am trying to feel him more, but there are moments like I've reached for him, but I do still want to connect on that way with him. I'm not afraid to anymore. At first I was afraid, but now I want to be there in that place where I can feel him.
Hmm.
Um, and he knows that I'll talk to him. I talk out loud now. I don't keep it in. I talk it verbally. I let it out. I tell him, like, look at the mountains or
Yeah.
smell that coffee, or I'll say things just because I want to never lose that connection with him.
I think you never will. You're keeping him in. It's beautiful.
I'm so happy I'm allowed to, because I do believe that I'm around people in my life that would be so rebuking this whole theory, this whole concept, to be like, you're nuts. I can
Oh,
feel the look.
well, you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're all rock and roll now.
Yeah. Yay, team.
I see my friend Legends is listening, has been listening. So thanks for tuning in.
I like that.
Hey ladies, how are you, Cindy? Nice to meet you. I am Legends, or Jared. You can call me either one. Thank you so much for sharing that vulnerable memory, Cindy. And I just want to say, like, I think it's a beautiful, poignant thing to do. Even if somebody transitions, to mention their name, to bring up their memory, to bring up their spirit, keeps them alive. And I don't know what, and it's not even about what people's beliefs or constructs are. You can feel the peace that's giving you just to talk about this person. I have no background on any of it, but I can already feel the energy of how warm it is and how genuine from what you're saying. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Legends. That means a lot. What about you? What is there something you would say to someone or to something?
So I went through a kind of personal unveiling when I really started to perform in a more serious way and become in touch with the deeper me that I had never let out. But because she had never been let out, it was like the conscious me didn't know her. So I was getting to know her and I was like, oh, yes, I definitely want to come from this place. You don't have eating disorders. You don't have insecurities. You're on top of your game. Your self worth is this and that. And so to really dive in fully, I had my first death, my first, I guess that was my first ego death. That's when I became pastel supernova. I did a meditation where with love, I killed her and I saw her die, and then I stepped into this new outlook on life, and it improved me and it was great. And then she was my foundation. I didn't kill her with hate. It was just she had to go. But I would have given her some last words. The me I can be now speaks and uses her voice. I became a different kind of storyteller in all forms. The previous me, she was silent. That's what made her self-harm. Like, that's why I was so mean to myself. And I didn't know how to speak. So I didn't think to speak to her when I killed her, to let her know that her voice would grow. So I think I would tell foundational me, your stories will be told.
I've got tears in my eyes right now.
I didn't know I needed to say that. Ooh, I feel all emotional.
Well, you did you did some powerful things considering you were that much younger, that you would work on that foundational and then let it go. That's so powerful to think in terms of we're not our age, we're not numbers, but just as humans to allow the suffering to come to a place of, okay, that's got to go, that I've got to let that go. And then to sacrifice self is a very huge transition for humans. But
Hmm.
you gave words now you've given words, and those, that parting words thing is, or parting thoughts or words, is so huge because it sums up so much, but it also gives meaning to why that had to happen to bring you to where you are now.
Yeah, it feels good. Thank you.
It sounded really good.
Thank
It felt good. Like I got tears in my eyes.
And, I think the answer to your question is a simple no for me. It's not
hmm
really complicated for me because I don't really waste my time with people. My relationships with people are very firmly grounded, and we immediately feel comfortable with telling each other things. That's like my goal in life, is to let people know that I'm authentic, and therefore that I demand authenticity from them as well. Otherwise, I'm going to leave their presence. And so I'm much more fulfilled in my life that I haven't really missed out on anything.
Bravo. I mean, that
Yeah.
is the goal, really. That is, it's a huge regret that people have. That's why I thought let's vocalize some last words that might be stirring inside us now. I want to be like that. And I want us all to be like that. The moment we mic drop, it's out. We're done. We did it. Not everything can be as simple as I said what I needed to say. Your situation is similar. You maybe did right up until that moment, but then you had more to say, and Tony was gone. So
Yeah.
circumstances, they happen, and that's why I'm asking the question. If we say it out loud and is witnessed, it'll
Hmm.
vibrate maybe a little bit further out than if we just thought it in our head or said it to ourselves, and it can get out just like a prayer.
Thank you so much that we did that today. I'm glad I got to put my words out there. And Tony, I love you.
I'll say this too. I guess I try to live in the sense that I assume that I'm not going to see somebody again.
Me
So
too.
in this moment, in the next moment, when I'm at the gym, wherever I am, I assume I'm never going to see that person again. And I try and live that way so that I can remain grateful for the moment, in the moment, but also freely communicate to the person the significance or the feelings that they might emote when I communicate with them. Like, I love you, or this means a lot to me, or I'm really grateful that you did that. So things like that. That just kind of comes naturally for me. And I think it's because I've been so, uh, what's the term? I've been so aware that everything is temporary. It's helped me kind of step back and see the bigger picture of this person may not be here next time I come here.
Yep, that's how
That's
it was in my house.
wow. That's really profound. Like I've heard, no, I mean, really, like I've heard
Yeah.
it said in other ways, but this way really resonates with me because now I really understand it. I don't know when I'm going to breathe my last. I don't know if I'll be able to say I love you to somebody. I just like saying it to people. I like hugging people. I like saying I love you.
hmm
That's the way I am. So I'm going to do it more.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a form of stoicism that is very beautiful, is to just know that that's a possibility, brings you into the present moment.
I think this is where we need to remember grace and compassion for ourselves first, and then for others who are sharing intentionally and maybe sometimes as authentically as they can, even if it doesn't connect with us the way we need it to. Having grace and compassion in that area is important. And also having the ability to know that apologies may never come,
Yeah.
and being able to just let it go and shake it off. And I mean, that sounds very toxic positivity, and yet it's been one of the most freeing things in my life to be able to just release, because no apology, no comment, no reason could ever cover the pain that's been experienced. And in that case, letting it go is the only way to be free.
Yes.
I want to say one last thing because I was just listening to Robbie, and I feel like, and maybe this will set a precedent, but I feel like these conversations that we're all having need to be had more. I feel like a lot of people look at death as taboo, almost like you have to bury the feeling of it. And I think if people learn to, like you're doing, Pastel, with this podcast, learn to just get the words out, they could heal a lot more, and they can feel a lot more at peace. And it's very, very powerful. A lot of us are not raised to talk about our passing or our death or our hurts, even in general. But much love to every one of you today.
Nice. Yes. Yes. That's this forum. That's exactly what this can do.
That's why we're here.
Thank you for these few moments. I'm so happy that you're doing this. Look forward to
Thank you
more.
for sharing. Thanks,
Hey, Robbie.
Robbie.
I'm going to leave it there for this week. And I want to thank you for listening. This is a big step for me, and I appreciate you being here. If you want to tune in live, find me on the stereo platform at Pastel Supernova every Sunday. I record these a week in advance, and you can pop in with your 2 cents. I am at Pastel Supernova. That's where you can find me everywhere. And if you want to tune in to just my Death Doula related work on Instagram, I also have at Death Doula Pastel. In the meantime, have a great week, and I wish you blessings and respect.